Hi, friends. This is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about the Hitchcock and Scully problem. All right, so right now I am watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's on Netflix. They have 6 of the 8 seasons. They brought in 4 seasons. I watched all of them. Then they brought in another season. I'm watching through those other 2 seasons, season 5 and 6 right now. It's a very good show. In fact, I think it might be the perfect sitcom. I think it really might be just perfect sitcom situation comedy. I think it's the best situation comedy I have ever seen. It is phenomenally good, right? So with that said, there's the issue of Hitchcock and Scully. So I was talking to someone about I've been enjoying this so much, and it's so funny, but it's also a great compelling story. It has something to say about police. It really is phenomenal. It also pushes the line. It goes too far on some jokes, right? And it's really incredible. But in an interesting way. It's really a phenomenal show. I also was like, wait a second, if it pushed too far. Oh, yeah. Anyway, all right, let's get into this. All right, so they have these characters, Hitchcock and Scully. So they have Captain Holt is an amazing precinct captain. Peralta is a great uh, Peralta is a great detective. Amy is a great detective. Rosa is a great detective. Charles is a great detective. But Hitchcock and Scully are terrible detectives. They almost never solve anything, and they're just kind of lumps who sit there and don't do much, right? But Captain Holt does not fire them, and he doesn't transfer them, and frankly, he doesn't even attempt much to improve them, right? They're just there, right? So I started thinking about it. I'm like, why are and the staff, right? Like all those people, all those good detectives I just talked about, they treat them terribly. They insult them constantly. They ignore them. They exclude them. They treat them horribly, horribly, right? And I was like, why are they here? What is the purpose of them? Are they making this show funny? Are they here to make it so it seem that this precinct is realistic? What is the purpose? And I think it's to make the precinct feel realistic, right? And the reason why I think this is, I also, once I recognize the Hitchcock and Scully, these characters that have no purpose but to establish realism and catch brutal, savage insults and treatment, right? Um, I was like, what is this, right? So I thought about it, and I thought about 2 of the other top situation comedies, and so there is this same thing in other comedies. In Parks and Rec, it's Jerry, and in The Office, it's Kevin, right? So these characters who are there to establish that in any functioning group, there is going to be a like um, a do nothing incompetent, a do nothing incompetent, who then will be treated savagely by the rest of the competent group, by the rest of the competence within the group. Once I realized that this was there, and once I realized this was a pattern on highly successful shows, every highly successful comedy has this, right? Um, once I realized that, I was like, I have to think about this, right? And now I'm thinking about what it means at our Dungeons and Dragons table. So if you're running a 5-player table, there's a good chance you have a Hitchcock or a Scully, or a Hitchcock and a Scully, right? And once we realize that, how do we manage that, right? So I have actually talked about this previously, where I talked about not all players are created equal. And what I talked about previously was that you might really have some incredible rock stars at your table, and you need to realize you shouldn't be treating them the same as your non-rock stars. What I never thought about is that, what if there's a good chance at any Dungeons and Dragons table, there's not just a not rock star, there's a do nothing incompetent, right? But the solution is not to get them away from the table, but to manage them. And that's very interesting, the way they manage them, and they very clearly manage them in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Whenever they go into audit or inspection, they literally assign people to cover them and get them out of the way, right? These guys have a nap room. Hitchcock and Scully have a nap room at work, right? Like, it's astounding, right? How do nothing incompetent they are. It's really, really fascinating. And what I think is, and I don't have the solution for you today. I don't have the solution to deal with your Hitchcock and Scully at the table, right? But the reason I'm talking about this today is I definitely think it's a thing. We spent the first 50 years of Dungeons & Dragons doing it wrong and talking about the wrong things. Like, we spent the first 50 years of Dungeons & Dragons with YouTube channels telling you, here's how you build a better ranger, right? Just useless content, like stuff that nobody needed, right? But now that we're moving into the second 50, there's a good chance that literally hundreds of thousands of tables have a Hitchcock or a Scully. And the solution is not to get rid of them. It's to deal with them and manage them and deal with the issue of having a Hitchcock and a Scully there and managing that going forward in a successful way. And we haven't even started this discussion. So I'm acknowledging that there probably is a Hitchcock and a Scully at many tables. Now, unfortunately, I don't have one. I don't think I have a Hitchcock or a Scully right now. Oh, I definitely have had a Hitchcock and a Scully in the past. No question. Wow, that's wild. But we need to start talking about how do we manage this, right? And the only way to solve the problem is to acknowledge it. So that is the point of this video today, is to simply acknowledge the problem, that you may have this situation of, you very well may have this situation of a Hitchcock or a Scully at your Dungeons & Dragons table. It's even possible that the macro level table, 51% of all Dungeons & Dragons tables have a Hitchcock or a Scully at them. And we haven't even started the discussion of how to manage that, right? So I think that's interesting, and I think we really should start to discuss this. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.